Hi, McCartney fans, and welcome to episode 111 of Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. We are a Paul McCartney talk show mainly dealing with the solo career of the one and only Paul McCartney. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Tom Hunyadi, and you may know me from my other podcast, Talk More Talk, a Solos Beatles video cast where we talk all solo Beatles. And as always, I'm joined by my partner in crime, my backwards traveler. He is the one and only Andy Nichols. Andy, what's going on, my friend?
Good afternoon, Thomas. How are you?
Excellent. As you can see, we're going to have another kick-ass guest here with hopefully he's got some wonderful stories of working with Paul, and we're going to get right into that today. We really don't have any news to share, so we're just going to jump right into this one. Our guest today is a legendary and highly respected drummer and musician who has toured and recorded with Orleans, Peter Gabriel, Hall & Oates, Iggy Pop, Cher, Elvis Costello, and our boy Paul McCartney, just to name a few. His credits, if you don't know, it's just so wide-ranging. The quality of music and the genres of different music that he's played in is just really amazing, and you really need to check this gentleman's career out. And he is the one and only Jerry Marotta. Jerry, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
So
Awesome.
let's just
Iggy Pop, by the way. That's not one that people
Right.
often throw out there.
No,
When you said Iggy Pop, I thought, wait a minute, did I didn't work? Well, no, of course I did.
did.
I mean,
Yeah, of course.
I worked on some, or did some recording.
Mm-hmm.
No Iggy,
Right.
but the producer who happened to live in Woodstock,
Okay.
and musician, and producer, worked with Iggy. He had me play on a couple of tracks from a record that Iggy did. Anyway,
Right. Amazing performer.
Thanks for reminding me about that.
You got it.
Judging from your credits, my God, it's easy to forget you've played on 1,001 records.
You know what? I usually, it's funny, I'm not bragging, but it's more a commentary on my mind. I can remember about 7. And
Right.
then when I get up to 7, I can't think of any others.
Well, I mean, there's Carly Simon as well too. I mean, it's just the list just goes on and on and on. It's
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Bob Fripp.
Yeah.
Robert Fripp.
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I worked with Spider-Man.
But let's just jump right in and just talk about how 2020 is working for you. Obviously, we know a lot of the music business is just been destroyed really with this COVID. And I mean, how are you coping at this moment in time?
Well, really well, actually.
Okay.
I have a big ass residential recording studio up here in the Woodstock area called Dreamland.
Dreamland, right? Yep.
So, in March, late March, whenever, we really shut it down. We had to shut it down. I mean, we couldn't take any chances. And
Right.
the guys that work at the studio with me, tech and engineers and stuff, we just made a decision we were not gonna. And then, of course, there was a shutdown. I mean,
Right.
It was kind of mandated by the governor. So we followed that. And so we stayed closed until maybe somewhere in June, early to mid-June.
Right.
But when we reopened, it's been crazy. Because there's nothing else to do but record.
Right, and produce.
Right.
Yeah, there's no go gigging.
No touring at the time, right?
How many Facebook Live things
It's been nonstop
in like 9 months? I mean,
right.
So the Dreamland has been crazy busy, and I've been working on projects. I mean, I'm pretty picky about what I do in general. I mean, people will send me files, if they want me to play drums on some of their tracks.
Okay.
I do that. I'm happy to do that, and it's surprisingly affordable. I mean, a lot of people they think I'm going to charge thousands of dollars. I don't do that, and so I've been doing quite a bit of that, and then I've got some productions. If I come across an artist that I really like, and they want me to produce them, I that's what I like to do most.
Cool.
Is production, and I've been doing that for a long time.
Cool.
Over the drumming?
What's that?
You prefer the producing over the drumming right now?
Well, you know what? When I'm producing, I get to drum, and I get to do a lot of other things. Like I play bass.
Okay.
Right.
So oftentimes I'll do some bass playing. I also I enlist my really close friend and neighbor Tony Levin, who's
Mm-hmm.
bass player. That he's the closest thing in my book to play like McCartney.
Right.
Sure.
So you're very hands-on producer then.
Yeah, it's either Tony or me or there's some others, but what's good? I do a lot of things to sing and write and play other instruments, and
Right.
so it gives me a chance to do all of that and also boss people around.
There you go.
And being Italian, I mean,
Right. Forget about it. Yeah.
Right.
Hold on one second.
Yes.
Just wondering if that's
Yeah, that looks fine too.
better because those lights don't have to be
that's
on.
fine. So
Yeah.
let's take it back to let's get in the time machine and talk about in your bio you talk about your brother bringing home your drum kit after you're messing around with the clarinet and the saxophone. Those weren't really jiving with you, but let's just talk about the drums. What clicked with you with the drums?
I'll tell you, this is back when the earth was still cooling, by the way.
Right.
Back then, now you'd call me ADD or ADHD. Back then it was just hyper.
Right.
10 years old, 8 years old. Oh, that Jerry, he's so hyper. He's hyper.
Right.
So I was very hyper. And when my brother brought the drums in and he set them up in the attic of the house, and then he started banging around on them. And my older brother's drummer, as you know, but
right.
he was in college. Like he started playing drums when he was in college.
Well, he's significantly older than you, right?
He's about 8 years older than me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
8 or 9 years older than me. For 1 month, he's 9 years older than me. He's in January and I'm in February.
Right.
But I sat at the drums and, being a hyperactive kid, it was just like, oh yeah, this is it. This is for me, This is for me. I'm like wailing, off, legs going, hands going. So that's really the way it all came about. And I used to listen to him,
mm-hmm.
and then he had friends that would come over to give him pointers, and I would like overhear. I'm like a kid, I'm
right.
I'm 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what was interesting is a little tie-in with this slightly is where we grew up. There was a guy named Andy Newmark, a drummer named Andy Newmark,
sure.
who he ended up playing on the Double Fantasy record, on the Lennon record.
With Tony.
Yeah, exactly. So Newmark, he's like 16, 17, and he's coming over, and he's a real drummer, and he's giving my brother pointers, and I'm listening, and then they would leave, and I'd go up and try to do what he was talking about. So that was basically it, and I just used to go up there and play a lot.
Mm. So did you get any real true lessons, or were you more self-taught?
No, and if you listen carefully to what I do, you don't need lessons.
Right.
By ear. You learn by ear.
Yeah, and I don't have a lot of chops or anything. Not that I'm. Look, I respect Ringo. I mean, not because we're talking about a Beatle with Paul, but people like they talk about Ringo. But Ringo, that thing that I'm in that same kind of league. You don't have to be a killer. You're not Neil Peart, okay?
Right, I understand.
He's like playing the right thing and coming up with some interesting ideas, but simple ideas,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm much more like that.
Right. So your brother being older than you, obviously, and gigging before you're able to. I mean, obviously, he was able to hook you up with gigs, which he which I guess you would say your first professional gig was thanks to him with the Arthur Hurley and Galip band, right? Talk about that.
Well, my brother, he was doing a lot of session work in New York. He had done this record for this group, Arthur Hurley and Gottlieb, in this has got to be 1972.
Okay.
So, and Arthur Hurley and Gottlieb were very much like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, that kind of violin, acoustic guitar, vocals, piano.
Harmonies.
Really What's that?
Harmonies and stuff.
Really good vocals, harmonies, really good band. And so he did their record, and they were going on tour, but he wasn't going to do that. He was doing session work. So I was in summer school it was in 11th grade. I went to summer school to graduate a year early.
Oh, okay.
And a week before summer school was over, I got this opportunity. When they asked my brother said, you know what? I can't do it, but my little brother's perfect for you guys. He's perfect. And these guys were like college age. They were like 3 or 4 years older than me. So I went and I played with them, and it really worked out. They really liked my playing. So they said, okay, you're our guy. And so but summer school wasn't over. So I went to my teachers and I explained the situation. And both my teachers were very cool, and they gave me my final exams to take on the road with me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was really a good kid in high school, and I was popular. I was, you know what I mean? I wasn't a troublemaker. I blah, blah, blah. I played sports. I had a job. I was playing music, and so my teachers were like, oh, we're not going to stand in your way. People knew where my path was going. And so I took my final exams on the road with me. I just don't remember doing them. I don't remember doing them, but I do have a diploma somehow.
So I'm sure they gave you an A regardless.
I mean, I really don't remember. It's a long time ago, so I don't remember actually doing them, but I guess I must have done it.
Well, they saw that you were on your pathway, so they said, that kid Marotta, give him an A. He's got it.
But I did hand them in. I had to hand them in.
Right, of course.
So, don't tell anybody, but Jeff Arthur, the lead singer in the band's girlfriend, had graduated and was an English teacher or something. And so I suspect that I had help.
Nice. I love it.
I had help doing my English final exam.
Yeah.
Right.
So so that's where it all started. I mean, I got my final exams, and then we rehearsed, and the first gig we did, I'm like 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We flew down to Florida, to Miami, which is where these guys were from, and we opened a show for Richie Havens in 1970.
Oh, very cool.
Who in a Highlight Arena, which was Richie at the time after Woodstock.
Right.
No, he was like a massively huge.
Mm-hmm.
So we opened the show for Richie, and I'm 17. I mean, I've never even been to Florida. I was like, I never saw a palm tree. and I just was. It was just unbelievable, and it just snowballed from there.
Right. So then going into let's jump into Orleans. I mean, this was pretty much in the Woodstock area, right? Where you auditioned for them and get the job with Orleans?
I was, there's a recording studio was here called Bearsville.
Okay.
And we were working, my brother was producing a girl songwriter, singer named Allie Willis from Detroit. Do you know her?
No, not off the top of my head.
Did you ever hear the television show Friends?
Oh, yeah.
Well, she wrote the theme.
Okay.
Oh.
So, and sadly, within the last year, she passed away. But we were, and she's written many other songs like September, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And back when we worked with her, she was incredible, beautiful, great person, didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. Of course, writing the Friends theme alone is,
Oh.
you have no idea. It's astronomical.
Oh, sure.
You're set for life.
Astronomical amount of money.
Set for life. I mean,
Yeah,
especially when you get syndication on that. Oh, forget about it.
Oh, forget it. It's insane. Astronomical. Astronomical. So couldn't happen to a nicer person. Anyway, we were recording at Bearsville, and John Hall and my brother knew him, and John was in there for some reason, and John said, well, we're looking for a drummer. We want to add a second drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother didn't want to do it, even though at the time, honestly, Orleans was our favorite band. Mine, it was like they were not quite Dance With Me, Still the One.
Right.
If you ever listen to their first solo record, it's like really funky, really badass record.
Mm-hmm.
So I had seen them play. I mean, this was like, ironically, and I always say this, sorry, because it sounds like funny talking about McCartney, but
right.
I always say, if the Beatles and Orleans had asked me both at the same time, they wanted me to play drums for them, I would have gone with the Orleans.
Wow.
No question. I would have chosen Orleans.
Wow.
And so that's how I started out with Orleans, and I think I was probably around 18.
Right. Yeah, that's what my information says. 18 years old. So then you obviously you play on their big hit, Still the One, and I gotta imagine as an 18-year-old, especially trying to pick up chicks at that point in time, you're like, hey, I just played on this hit record.
Let me tell you something. I never did that.
Okay.
I have a better story than that.
Great, please.
My high school girlfriend. I had a girlfriend in high school, Lori. Okay, it was great. She was a majorette. I was in the marching band. It was a marriage made in heaven. So she graduates a year ahead of me, and she goes to Ithaca College, upstate New York. And so I'm in Harrison. So the first time she comes back from college to visit her family, she has this record. She said, Jerry, there's this band that plays around Ithaca all the time. They're really great. You should hear them. You're gonna like them. And it was the Orleans record. Okay, so the next time she comes back from college, she dumps me.
Oh,
she dumps me. Of course, she's at college. She's met a guy at college. So, but wait a minute. The next time, I'm pulling into Ithaca in a tour bus, playing with Orleans, a concert at Ithaca College, and they had Dance With Me was a big hit at that point.
Right.
Maybe Still the One.
That was the first hit, right? Still the One wasn't out just yet, right?
Dance With Me was the first hit, and Still the One was the second big hit.
Right. Do you cringe when you hear that song on the Applebee's commercial?
Only cringe because I don't make any money from it.
That's what
I'm sure John Hall does. And you know what? That's the second song that I know of that I played on really early on. I worked with Hall & Oates, and I played on You Make My Dreams Come True.
Yeah.
And that was an Applebee's commercial like 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Actually called my friend who's the vice president of the union, the music union. And I said, what do I do? Am I supposed to get a check for that? He said, yeah, no, you're not gonna make any money off of that. So anyway, I don't cringe. I think I love Orleans. It's like it was a dream come true to play with them. And sadly, John Hall, the leader of that band, quit the band.
Right.
He quit the band, which, do you have any more questions about Orleans?
No, but I wanted you to finish the story too about playing that show.
Which one?
Where you're playing at the college?
Oh, well, that's the story. There it is.
Yeah.
I'm pulling in a tour bus, and there's my ex-girlfriend.
Right.
I'm coming to play her college now, not a bar, with Orleans, and it was a good moment.
I'll say.
I love it.
Sorry, you missed this one, hun. See ya. Bye.
But the leader leaves. I mean, and you're pretty much. I mean, your guys are left there to what? I mean, just.
So what are we talking here? Like 76, 7?
I
later.
joined Orleans in 75.
Right.
Okay.
I joined Arthur Hurley and Gottlieb in 73.
Mm-hmm.
I joined Orleans in 75. Okay, so somewhere in 76, early 77, John Hall, the main guy, lead songwriter of the band,
Right.
Orleans, quits.
Mm.
So I'm crushed, literally. I'm crushed. So I go out to LA for some reason. My brother's out there. I went out to LA to hang out and kind of figure out, like, my dream band just broke up. Well, while I'm out there, I don't know how it happened, but somebody hands me and or my brother a cassette of this singer named Peter Gabriel. I didn't know who he was.
No. Okay.
No, you got to understand something. Like, I get this reputation, like, Prague thing. I'm not a Prague guy. I didn't know who Genesis was. I didn't know who Peter Gabriel was.
And Peter really at that time wasn't really established in this country yet as a solo.
Not really. I mean, Genesis had some success around the world, but nothing like
Not here, but nothing here still, even at that time.
No, not really. But they had made that record, The Lamb Lies Down, on Broadway, and that was to become a very, that was kind of launching them.
Right.
But, so I listened. I don't know if you've ever heard that first Peter Gabriel record.
I have them. I have them all.
that shit is like, I'm like into the Doobie Brothers. I'm into Motown. I'm a Motown guy.
And that record has all kinds of genres on it: barbershop, quartet, rock, fusion. It's loaded with everything.
Oh, but no funk.
No.
Nothing black about it at all.
No. More about the Burgermeister.
Excuse me.
Humdrum, which is a good song.
Humdrum's amazing.
Yeah.
Lot of Love, Salisbury Hill.
Here comes the Flood, which you guys did later. Yeah.
Right, but no, there's nothing American funk, black, R&B, Motown, Doobie Brothers, nothing. Like,
right.
So I'm listening to it and I'm like, this is some of the weirdest shit I've ever heard. Now, okay, my band broke up a month ago. It's like maybe June. I get this offer to go to England in August.
Do you know how you got the offer, though? I mean,
I don't. Somehow it came through. I don't know if it came through my brother or it was maybe through Tony Levin.
Okay.
Oh, because Tony was already been playing with Peter by that point.
He was already playing, and Tony might have recommended my brother, maybe me.
Okay.
But my brother wasn't going to do it, and so.
And you haven't been to England at this point in time, then, right?
No, I've been to Florida though.
Yes, that's true.
I saw palm trees, but
right.
They don't have those in England.
No.
But so I hadn't been to England, so I'm thinking, I don't know what I think of this music. It's cool. There's something great about it, but more important, it's a job. It's like a rebound.
Sure.
From Orleans. I'm rebounding. And I thought, I'm going to England. And it's a challenge. It's just really a challenge, which I'm up for the challenge.
And you weren't really hired.
I don't want to do the same thing over and over again.
And you were just basically going to audition, though, right? I mean, you weren't really official part of the band just yet, then.
What, with Gabriel?
With Gabriel, right?
No, there was no audition.
You just jumped right in.
He just hired me.
Oh, great. Okay.
Cool. What's funny is we never really established. I think he might have listened to an Orleans record. But it might not have been one that I played on. It might have been the one that Wells Kelly played on, the other drummer.
Right.
But so we never really kind of established if he had made a mistake and hired me. I mean, Wells wasn't going to do it.
Right.
And Wells wouldn't have lasted very long. But, I mean, Wells is my hero. He's a brilliant drummer. Hang on.
Yep.
What happened? How do I get you back?
We see you.
Yeah, we see you. So
I know.
down below, do you see the camera at the bottom? The blue camera at the very bottom of your screen?
Whoa, hang on.
It's the Zoom link at the very bottom of your screen.
Well, first of all, I'd have to be seeing the Zoom link.
Okay.
Or
I should say it's the Zoom icon at the bottom.
Or it should just be like another window or a tab or something to go back to.
Hang on.
You're still here.
Yeah, we still see you.
And we'll just cut all this out, so don't worry about it.
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on. Why? Hold on. Get rid of that. What's this? Get rid of this. Too many things. Okay, so where am I? Am I even on Zoom? Where's
You
Zoom?
sure are.
You are, because you're still here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, good.
You got it back now?
No, I see. You meant down in my menu bar, which is
menu
the
bar.
bar.
Right. Yep.
Why didn't you say menu bar?
Come on. Yeah. You know.
Hey, you're the tech guy, not me, Andy.
You freaking Mama
Anyway,
Luke.
I'm
Come
back.
on.
I'm back.
All right. So where were we?
What were we talking
Orleans,
about? No, and then you
Gabriel,
just the first couple of albums with Gabriel.
Weird, I don't know, but it paid well. I was going to England.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to be a challenge and interesting. So.
And yeah, you were going there to drum on the second album, which was really kind of out of the first four, was one that still now has that notoriety of being a little, it's a little dark, that album, the second one.
Actually, what the order is, Peter had done a promotional tour, in the old days, the record company would pay, with mostly the band that played on the record. That lasted 3 weeks, and then those guys go home. They're not going to keep touring with them. Except Pony and Larry Fast did keep touring with him.
Sure.
So he needed a guitar player and a drummer. So they hired, and so what we did, when I went in, it was to tour the first record. Like I did the touring after the first record in Europe and America. And then after that, then it became, it was up to Peter, but he did ask me to do if I would play on the next record.
Now, did you temporarily move to the UK and get an apartment, or you were just, because you were there, so you were back and forth?
Yeah, we just went back and forth.
Wow.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So right around this time then too, then you're also now playing with Hall & Oates as well. So how was that like? You got some time off, then you can go to them. You're just going back and forth. How did that work for you?
I was very, very lucky. It was like an amazing time for me because both of them were setting up their schedule around my schedule.
Oh, that was cool.
When I was working with Daryl and John, Peter was not, and then he would look at my schedule, and then we would do, I would work with Peter. With Hall & Oates, I finished a tour in Tokyo with them, and I flew from Tokyo to London, and I got picked up at the airport. I got driven to Ashcombe House, which is the place where Peter rented for us, the band, to be when we rehearsed and stuff. And I got there like at 6 a.m, waited for everybody to get up, Peter's band, and we started rehearsing for a tour, a Peter tour. So, that was just incredible.
What was Peter like in the studio in terms of direction on like the drum sound, say on the track like San Jacinto? Did he give you the freedom to create that, or he was like, play it this way, or you came up with that?
It was a little of both, but Peter never was like, play it like this. Peter was much more, we would play together and we would jam, and then we would try different things. And I really learned a lot from Peter and the approach and sensibility, which was different than playing with Orleans and Hall & Oates. Very different approach. So,
right.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you've got Yeah, he's channeling so many different rhythms too. I mean, like Biko and all this other stuff that's on those records. It
Yeah,
must have been yeah.
we had a lot of fun, and Peter was like a film director, you know,
Mm,
and it was awesome working with him, and he had rough ideas of things like
okay.
playing piano and kind of maybe a melodic idea, no lyric, maybe a possible title, blah blah blah, and then we would just generally get together. Tony, Larry Fast, myself, and then different guys. Excuse me. Eventually, it settled on David Rhodes, guitar player. He became the guitar player, and then it was
Gotcha.
David, and we had a good kind of rapport with one another. So
Cool.
we
You
worked together, and we kind of jammed a lot. We jammed a lot, come up
gotcha.
with ideas, and kind of hone things. And
And you can kind of hear that in a lot of that music, like the rhythm of the heat, and say you can tell that some of those might have derived from jams and just working that out to become those songs, which
yeah,
are
exactly.
freaking legendary. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, then going back to the Hall and Oates, I mean, did that seem more structured? Did that seem more like they, I mean, they knew what they wanted in the studio as opposed to coming up with stuff in the studio with Gabriel?
You know what? Daryl Hall came to a Gabriel show in New York, and the next day, their manager Tommy Mottola called me up, and he was like, "Daryl, he just wants you to, he's desperate to get you to go in the studio with them.
Wow.
Like, well, we got to figure out scheduling and everything, and we're going to work it out."
Because your brother worked with them in the early '70s, then on an
Yeah,
album, I
exactly.
believe. Yeah.
And you know what? I auditioned to play with them sometime, I don't know exactly when, 76, 7, something like that. It was the Silver record. And they're great. I mean, to be honest with you, Paul and Oates, that's my wheelhouse.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's your bread
Wide
and butter.
soul,
Yeah.
you know,
R&B sound. Yeah.
Philly rock and soul, like Todd Rundgren. So probably the most fun I ever had playing music live was with Daryl and John. So Daryl and John, Daryl, they just wanted me so badly, and we just figured out a way. We worked it out, and then
Mm.
I started I did a record with them called Ecstatic. David Foster,
Yep.
a
Yep.
pretty well-known guy.
Oh yeah.
Then. He hadn't really done much. He was producing it, and
He was working with George Harrison around that time too.
no, I don't think so.
Mid '70s.
David Foster?
Well,
Oh yeah.
there's two David Fosters now. Don't forget.
Not the guy, not the one I'm talking about.
Not the producer.
There's two. There's two David Fosters.
Oh, okay. Never
One
mind
that
then.
worked with Yes, and then the one you're talking, the one that worked with McCartney.
Okay.
Well, the David Foster I'm talking about worked
Okay.
in Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Producer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tom's. That's the
Okay.
guy Tom's talking about, I think.
He worked with who?
He worked with George Harrison he played piano on a couple of his
He
albums.
might have played piano, but I don't
Yeah.
think he produced it.
No, not
No,
at
he
all.
was a session player in
Right.
LA.
Yep.
But and then he wrote After the Love Is Gone, I think, which is
Yes,
is a
for Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yep.
and that was back in that period of time. He hadn't done a lot of production.
No.
Of course, since then he's done plenty.
Right.
So and writing, he writes and produces. So Foster worked on that record. Foster, I think, worked on the next one, maybe Voices, which had Your Kisses on My list.
This right.
I was still kind of going back and forth.
Right. Because then I think you drummed on you did it in a minute. What I think was the name of that song.
I don't know.
Right.
I honestly, I don't know. At that point, I could only do what I could do.
Right.
Daryl, John, and be honest with you, my allegiance was really more with Peter.
Okay.
Well, for some reason, because I was used to playing with Peter, it was more like a family thing. I remained loyal to Peter, although in the end he didn't remain loyal to me.
Yeah.
When it came around to So, and to make matters worse, I'll tell you this, and I know this is going to sound completely off the wall, but I'm telling you this, that at the end of the tour that I did with Hall & Oates, Daryl sat me down and he said, what do we have to do to get you to stay with us? We will change the name of the band. We won't call it Hall & Oates anymore.
Wow.
We'll call it something else.
Amazing.
But, and it was me and G.E. Smith, the guitar player.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah, of
yes.
He
course.
was like an unknown guy back then.
Yeah.
He was like a
Yes.
substitute English teacher or something, but super talented. And
Of course.
But I don't know. I swear to you, and I've confirmed this with some of the guys that worked on a high level in that office for Hall & Oates. They were like, yeah, they would have done anything for you.
Wow.
But
how does that make you feel, though, as a musician, to be wanted that badly?
Well, I didn't even consider it.
Okay.
Because for some reason, I'm not exactly, haven't always made the best business decisions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think the Hall & Oates thing, if I were smart and I had somebody advocating for me, like a lawyer or manager,
I see what you're saying.
that person would have then, the thing to do is to go, hey, call Daryl and John's manager and find out what they're offering.
Gotcha.
Let's see what they're offering.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't do any of that.
Gotcha.
I was a kid, I was in my 20s. I was having a ball. Peter's thing was just so interesting, and I don't know. Even though, it was interesting, but Hall & Oates was really more like gratifying for me. We played a couple of shows in LA, and we played at a place called the Roxy with Hall & Oates. I mean, when I joined Hall & Oates, their career was kind of, they went back and playing clubs. They kind of were down, and we kind of was like building them back up. When we played the Roxy, my brother came to that gig. He lived in LA. And my brother, when I walked off stage, my brother was sobbing. He was like overwhelmed with the power and the sound and the music that came off of that stage. It really was insane. And I remember being in the dressing room, and the road manager came up and he said, hey, I've got a note here for you guys. From people that are out there. And the note was, you guys were totally blown away. That's the best show we've ever seen. Blah, blah, blah. If you please come hang out with us upstairs at On the Rocks, which is a private club above the Roxy. And it was signed Neil Young, Jack Nicholson, and Joni Mitchell.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it was just ridiculous. There was a moment in time that band was we just blew people's heads off.
Right.
And it was just a remarkable moment in time. And I felt like I had I played a very significant role in making that happen on stage.
Wow.
Because of the time I had spent playing with Peter, and which had shifted my approach to playing, to not playing so totally standard, but to branch out and playing this, like these R&B funky grooves, but then I'm playing like Tom, things and like patterns on the drums, like a kind of like a Gabriel thing, and it just fucking lifted it, like a place where people just didn't. And then GE's like he's cranking it, and John Siegler, bass player, he was in Utopia with Rundgren. He's the bass player. Charlie DeChant, playing keyboards and saxophone. Darren John. It was really a moment in time, amazing moment in time. But when it came down to it, I just said no, and I stayed with Peter.
Gotcha.
You know,
So
whatever. I don't regret it. I don't.
yeah, that's great. Fine.
No,
So,
you got to go with your gut decision. Yeah, that's all you can do at the time.
and then from working with Gabriel, that's where you met Hugh Padgham then.
Yeah.
Correct?
Well, let me say one thing about Hall and Oates.
Mm.
You see that painting on my wall?
Yeah.
Yep.
That might have been a Rembrandt if
Oh
I
wow.
stayed working. If I'd made the right deal with Hall and Oates, the biggest selling duo of the '80s.
Right.
That
I see what you're saying.
that painting might have been a Rembrandt, although I love that painting, but
Right.
I don't think it's worth, $40-50 million.
The career path would have probably been a lot different then, I guess.
Yes,
But
indeed.
Hugh Padgham, let's get with Hugh Padgham. I mean, talk about working with him for because I think that was just with I think one album with Gabriel though. I think
Hugh?
the second one. Yeah,
No,
I think it was
no,
just
Hugh.
engineered just
No,
Changed, always different people.
Hugh engineered three.
three. Okay, three.
I think maybe Jerry can
Melting
confirm.
Face.
Three,
Yeah,
yeah.
Melt. Yeah, Melt.
It was the scratch record, which
Yes.
Robert Fripp produced.
Fripp did two, and he did three.
Steve Lillywhite produced it, and Hugh engineered it.
There you go.
And Hugh Padgham, I can't say enough about him. One of the best engineers I ever worked with. Guy's incredible ears, great guy, super talented. And I think you probably know, he hired me to do the Press for Play record.
Right, and that's what we're just going to get to. I mean,
And
it's
Hugh and I did. I think we did some other records together.
So
Dream
just
Academy, a great English band called.
Dream Academy. They do a song from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
They have one of their songs in it.
Their hit was called "Life in a Northern Town."
Yeah, that's a great
yes,
song.
that's right. Yep.
I did the next record,
Okay.
Okay.
which is awesome. It's an awesome record.
Mm-hmm.
The record with "Life in a Northern Town." I think David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. I think he produced that record, and then I think Hugh Padgham produced the next one, which is a great record.
Right. So
Because by the mid '80s, Padgham was just very successful. I mean, Genesis and Police, just massive.
real quick, Tom, before we take it to Hugh, this is the last thing on Peter with the Melt album on Intruder, the gated drum. That was Phil though, right? That was, but you drummed on everything else on that record. But Phil did Intruder or no?
I don't know. If I didn't drum on something, it was only because I was busy and I couldn't be there.
Okay.
But I don't know what else is on there. Is No Self-Control on that?
No
record?
Self-Control. I don't remember.
I think that Intruder and No Self-Control, I think, are Phil.
Okay.
Right.
All
And
right.
then
everything else, I believe, is me.
Games Without Frontiers and
Right.
Me.
right.
And then you're on all of four too, which including Shock the Monkey as well, I believe.
Shock the Monkey. Security.
Mm-hmm.
Security.
Which I think
Yeah.
is Peter's best record.
Okay.
Wallflower, which I think
Wallflower, I think is one of his best songs ever. Do you agree?
Then Rhythm of the Heat, San Jacinto, Lay Your Hands on Me. What else? Family in the Fishing Net. Now, you know these songs.
Yes.
I don't know whether you know the songs, but you know these songs. These are not like rock songs.
No, they're not.
It's bizarre music.
They are, but they're good.
They're incredible. They're incredible. I mean, I didn't think of it at the time, but when I ended up playing with the Security Project, when we started that, and I went back, because I didn't listen to the stuff. You move on. You don't listen. And when I started to examine those songs and we started learning them, I was like, wow, this stuff is unbelievable.
They're incredible. And a lot of the tracks that are on Security worked their way into the Birdie soundtrack, which you also played on.
Which, by the way, I went to see the movie Birdie on a date.
Right.
And like a first date with a girl in New York. And I'm watching the movie in the beginning, and I hear something, and it's like I've got a vocal of some kind, and I'm thinking, that's a guy who's trying to sound like Peter Gabriel. I didn't know because he didn't tell anybody. He didn't tell me anyway.
Right.
But it was all stuff that he recycled. He's big on
Yes.
recycling.
But he
Mhm.
did that. He did Wallflower for that again, which was great for that film.
Awesome. And a great movie, not only a great movie, but the soundtrack was great. And then, at the end, I don't know if you remember, but he credited, like, it says Peter Gabriel, and then you see really Jerry Marotta,
Yeah.
Right.
Tony Levin, like big on the
Right.
screen.
On the screen, yeah, of
It
course.
wasn't like a thing going by fast and little. They gave us a prominent credit. I don't think any money. Peter will give out the credit, but maybe not the money. So anyway, yes, but you're right. A lot of that got used, like outtakes and stuff got used for Birdie.
Interesting.
Which
Very
is
cool.
funny. When I saw Birdie, I thought Matthew Modine.
Sure.
Modine.
I'm thinking there's him, and then there's the other guy.
Oh,
Go on in 60 seconds.
Oh, the Cage.
Yeah,
Nick Cage.
Nick Cage.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Matthew Modine, he's going to be a huge star. Not that Nick Cage wasn't great, but Matthew Modine really stood out. But it's funny, it's the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Nick
That's
Cage
true.
became the huge star.
That's right.
Matthew Modine has a career, but not.
Not Nick Cage's career, yeah.
Well, he didn't have the Godfather uncle like
Yeah, he didn't.
Cage
he
did.
didn't. He didn't make enough money to buy an island, which he then had to sell when he wasn't making that much money.
That's right.
You got to be careful when you buy those islands.
Right.
Oh.
When you guys, if either of you make a lot of money, call me. If you're thinking about buying an island, call me and ask me, Jerry, do you think I should buy this island?
We'll call you first, Jerry. We will.
I think it's a bad idea. I'm thinking about buying an island.
That's hilarious. So did Hugh, obviously, as you said, you get the recommendation. Hugh gives Paul the recommendation, gives you. Did you have to meet Paul first beforehand, or did you?
Yeah, did you know that? Do you know that?
I had read that with a conversation with Paul and Hugh that you were recommended by Hugh to play.
Yeah, you know what? I was in London. There was a period of time, a couple of years. I lived in New York, but I was flying to London every month. Every month I spent at least a week there working on something. So I was over there, and this was maybe a few months before I was going to we're going to do the Paul record. And Paul, I got a message, and his manager said, "Hey, can we take a ride down to Sussex to Paul's studio? Can we run down there just to Paul? Would he just like to meet you?" So, of course, let's go. They picked me up. We drove down, like an hour and a half or something. We drove down, and Paul, I think he was recording a song for a film soundtrack. And Only Love Remains, maybe. It might even be on Press to Play.
Twice in a Lifetime, you might be thinking.
No, that's before that, Tom.
No, and you know what? It was the drummer from the Pretenders. I forgot his name. I'll remember it. But
okay.
But I think he was the drummer on that one session. And you've gone all cloudy. What happened?
It's it's the sunlight. It's the sunlight.
Pull a shade, man.
Hey, you can stay cloudy. It's fine.
No,
there we go.
There you go.
It was just the sun coming in.
So they took a break, and I was hanging at the kitchen. It was in Paul's studio, and so we met, and he said, we talked a little bit. Hey, how you doing? We had a cup of tea, and he said, thanks for coming down, but I didn't want the first day of the session be the first time I met you. I just felt it would be better if we met beforehand, and we just because then I feel like when you come to do the record, I feel like we kind of
you shoot the shit. Yeah.
So that was fine. It was fine.
Cool. I'm just trying to see if I can find this the song you're talking about real quick here.
I wanted to say, I just want to say it could be Only Love Remains, but it might not be.
Okay, fair enough.
We're talking like 80. Is this 80?
We're talking 85 was
85, really, when it was been worked on, right?
Was it 85, 86?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at April of '85 when these sessions begin with you and Paul and Eric Stewart. So, what did you think of the studio? I mean, this is a really brand new reconstructed studio. That,
Brand new at that time.
Yeah, I mean, him and what Eddie Rayner was his name?
Pumer.
Pumer. Okay, the guy that put
remember.
the
built it.
Yeah, they built it. Yeah. But well, I mean, what were your thoughts of the studio? I mean, did you have your own drum kit, or you use drums that were already there?
I had my own drums.
Mm-hmm.
I had drums over in England that I kept over there.
Oh wow!
I brought those down. I have to remember that. You're just reminding me that I have that drum kit. That when I go to sell it on eBay, I can say that it was on many records, including the Paul McCartney played these drums.
Nice. Yeah, and I was going to ask you, did you get to witness Paul play drums? And what did you think of him as a drummer?
Yeah, he sat behind the kid a little bit, not a lot.
Okay.
He can, he's not a great drummer, Rock, are you familiar with all of his catalog?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Everything. Yeah.
Everything.
My impression is, think of this. Rock and roll springtime.
Take one.
And then I could just hear him like pressing record,
Mm-hmm.
running behind the drum kit, yelling, "Rock and roll springtime, take one."
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's simple drumming. He played drums on something called Return to Pepperland.
Pepperland, right?
Yes.
He was playing electronic drums. I had these electronic. In fact, it's funny. I just scanned this afternoon at slides of him sitting behind the electronic drums.
Wow.
They'll be up on social media or something.
Right. Very cool. Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, but he didn't really sit behind the drum kit per se that much.
Right. So a lot of these songs were Eric Stewart and Paul McCartney compositions. I mean, did they present you demos before you played, or did these guys get in the studio and just started working out the songs from scratch there? Do you recall?
I don't remember any demos. And I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't think Paul McCartney was going to hand out like unreleased demos to anybody, just to be safe.
Sure.
We didn't need to. And I'll tell you, it's a funny thing. So I'm used to getting in the studio, Gabriel aside.
Mm-hmm.
You go in and, you learn the song, and you put it, a couple hours, 2-3 hours, you got to take, you're done. So we set up, we're recording, and day one, we're playing the song.
Right.
And then we knock it off. Back then, I think Paul was really working like school hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe 10 in the morning until maybe 4 or 5 o'clock at night.
Right.
Maybe 4. So the next day we come in and we'll play that song again. Half the day we're playing that song. So I said to him, listen, I just want you to know, if you're not happy with me and, if I'm not like getting the job done, I'm totally cool if you want. I don't want to be here if it's not working, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He said to me, Jerry, you're doing fine. Great. Great. Right. He said, I'm not looking for takes. I'm just looking to play. And he said to me, I haven't recorded. He hadn't made a record since, I think, Pipes of Peace, or Tug of War.
It was Broad Street. Street was
a proper record.
Yeah.
He made a solo record, but it had been 5 years, I think.
Okay.
And of course, so I remember, jumping around. After at some point he pulled the bass out, but like this is a week or two in, and I said, "Wow, that's awesome! why aren't you doing more of? You should do more of that. And he said, you know what? I haven't really played the bass in like 5 years.
Right,
And
right. There
I'm just
was
going to ease into it.
right.
I'm easing into it.
Yeah,
So,
there's stories of him having confidence issues at around that time with playing bass. You know, bringing other bass players, especially during like the Tug of War Pipes of Peace era too.
Yeah, Stanley Clark and all those
Right.
guys. Yeah.
wow, I mean, they're all great, but nobody plays like Paul.
Right.
Um, but the studio was he had bought a windmill from
Right.
Holland or something,
Mm-hmm.
and he had it brought over, and they set this windmill up. The
Right.
studio wasn't in the windmill.
Right.
The office was in. They built the thing, but the studio was great. I mean, obviously he could afford, he could afford anything.
Right.
That was not an issue.
Right.
So and it was Paul, Eric, and I. So Eric plays guitar and piano. Paul
Mm-hmm.
plays guitar and piano. I play drums.
And
So,
Hugh was there as well, right at that point in time. Do you
who?
recall?
Hugh?
Hugh. Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, he was there from day one.
Okay. From
You
day
know,
one.
they were.
Yeah.
We weren't rehearsing. We were in there recording.
Right. Because the story is.
Let me just say this.
Yeah.
Each song, as it turns out, we played for 3 days.
Yeah, that's what I was reading. I mean, you guys played one song per 3 days.
Every song we played for 3 days.
Right. Gotcha.
It was, actually, it chilled me out. And once I kind of relaxed and realized, there's no rush. Let's just, Paul McCartney was used to being in a band.
Right.
And I think the Beatles would get together and they would do what bands did back then in the early 60s.
Right.
They sit down and play, they would jam and play and blah, blah, blah. They weren't, necessarily working with hired musicians. George was playing guitar. Paul was playing bass and, piano. John was playing guitar, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And Ringo was playing drums. They were, that was the band. That's what they did,
So now you had Phil come out again to these sessions, right? Because Phil was on the song "Angry."
Angry, but I think that was after.
Was that after you were there?
Yeah,
probably.
Because he did after Jerry left. He had done "Through Our Love," I think, and then "Spies Like Us" and "Angry" as well.
Not you mean only
Well,
love.
they're not.
Thank you. Only Love Remains. Thank you. Yes.
Are they on Press to Play?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 of the 3 are on Press to Play. So
Yeah.
I think you did 11 tracks here, and I'll just name them off real quick here. You got "Move Over Busker," "Good Times Come and Feel the Sun," "It's Not True," "Press," "However Absurd," "Stranglehold," "Footprints," "Right Away," "Tough on a Tightrope," "Yvonne's the One," and "Pretty Little Head."
Am I on Yvonne's the One?
Yeah, I mean, apparently.
I have to go back and listen. I haven't listened to it, but great experience. I'll tell you 2 things. One, Footprints was like the last thing we did, and it was like an afterthought.
Right.
And I programmed it's all
right.
Lindrum.
Lindrum. I was going to ask you about that. I mean, talk a little bit about the Lindrum and how does that work?
Well, I'm going to talk to the whoever it is out there who wants to buy my Lindrum, the one I used on Footprints in the Snow.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding. But I've only become the guys in my studio. I have a residential studio up here.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are welcome anytime.
Thank you.
To come and visit. But I fired up my Lindrum. I hadn't used it in about 20 years.
Okay.
So my tech guy got it all working, blah, blah, blah. As it turns out, well, I'm thinking, what's the value of these things? All this stuff, I have so much equipment. It's like a Lindrum. That Lindrum's probably worth like $7,000-8,000 now.
Wow.
I know it's wild, So anyway, those guys made me very aware of everything I own and how much it's worth. But anyway, Lindrum, I first learned about it through Peter.
Okay.
He had the Lin 1, and then I bought a Lin 2, and it was pretty expensive, like $2,500 back then. I bought that, and I got to be very good at programming.
Okay.
That's a good example. That song, Footprints, which I love that song.
Oh, that's one of my favorites on the.
That's one of
I
Tom's
love
favorites.
that song.
Yep.
It's such
Love
a
it.
beautiful song.
Right.
Now,
You also the other thing you did that wasn't necessarily drum related on Press to Play, you did the vibraphone on Pretty Little Head.
oh, is that what it was?
Yes. Yep.
Pretty Little Head, not Back to Pepperland.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Is there a song called Back to Pepperland?
Yes, there is. Yes, but never released.
Didn't come out.
No, it was called Return to Pepperland, actually.
Something like that. That's when I started thinking, this may be my job for life. I started thinking this could be the job for life now, which would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was playing the electronic drums.
Okay.
Right. But I'm just banging around hanging around on the vibes.
Right.
And
no, really cool sounding. I mean, you played wonderfully on that. I love that's one of my favorite parts about Pretty Little Head.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. And Stranglehold ended up being a single.
Yep.
We ultimately went and did a video for.
Yep.
Right.
Which I don't know when you want to talk about it, but we need to talk about that.
Yeah, please. Let's jump right to it then.
Let's stick with the record for a few minutes.
Okay.
So, but here's what you need to know, whether you know it or not. So, with Paul, it was like I could have taken a helicopter every day from London to the studio, but I had worked in another studio not that far away, and I'd stayed in like a B&B, an English traditional B&B, but in a mansion, beautiful house.
Right.
So I said, I don't want to stay I'm going to stay here, which was funny because it was like a fraction of the cost, and I didn't care about the cost, but by being close with the people that ran it, that became like family. We became like family. Mm-hmm. So I'm staying there, and so my girlfriend comes to stay with me. Do you know anything about this?
No.
Okay. My girlfriend at the time, she's an actress. She was in a movie called Airplane. She was the stewardess. She was Julie Haggerty.
No kidding.
She's the stewardess. So,
that's awesome.
But here's what's funny. Julie's great.
One of my favorite comedies of all time.
She's great, So, but here's what's really hysterical. Paul and Linda, and they live in their house. They have a great house, very American-looking house, and nothing like a castle or whatever. They have 4 kids.
Right.
Heather, I think, was Linda's daughter.
Yes.
And then there's Mary, Stella, and James.
Yep.
Well, two things. I had worked with Tears for Fears before that. 1. 2, I'm hanging out around them, and we go to their house for dinner or something, and I've got Julie with me. So in the McCartney household, Julie and I are way more famous than Paul McCartney and Julie Haggerty to their kids, they're like 9, 12, and 14. So, as you can imagine, Paul's their father. Linda's their mother. It's my father and my mother. Okay, I know. It was a Beatle. But Jerry played with Tears for Fears.
Right.
And Julie was in that movie. Airplane. This is much closer back to when the movie was in. So it was like a bizarre role reversal,
Wow.
We were, for a moment in time, we were more famous than Paul.
That's incredible, man.
How long did she stay with you guys?
I just want to say, Paul, if you're listening to this, I never felt like I was more famous than you. Obviously, I didn't feel like I was more famous than you. But it was a thrill for me for a minute.
How was the atmosphere recording the album at the time?
With them? With
Eric and Paul, Hugh.
Great. It was very low key and very really fun. Paul and Eric had written some songs. I don't know, did they write them all together?
Not all of them, but I think it was ended up being like 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah. I want to say, and you may know better, and I hope this is okay. I don't want to offend anybody.
No, please.
But I think Paul and Eric had been writing together a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe that might have been transitioning into another phase of his writing career for Paul.
Mm-hmm.
But Eric is great and super talented, of course.
Oh yeah, multi-instrumental talented.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. And those 10cc records, are
Those first 4, yeah.
They're brilliant. They're just brilliant. So, and Eric was really wonderful to work with, super creative, and I think there was a conversation. I was good that same year. At some point, I did a record with Elvis Costello.
Yeah,
it was called Spike.
Well, that was in '89.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that too in a few. Yeah.
Okay. I think that I remember at the time that Paul was talking about how, they were looking for someone to fill the Lennon shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to remember, when was Lennon sadly?
80.
When was he killed?
80.
1980.
Yeah. So I think that was the 5 years from 80 to 85. Was it 85 when we did Press
Right.
the
Yep.
Post?
Yeah.
I think Paul kind of decided to take it easy,
Oh,
Plus,
yeah.
his kids were young, and he was totally dedicated to his children. So, if they call a bank holiday, if there was no school on a Monday,
right,
we didn't record on Monday.
Oh,
gotcha. Right,
and
right.
What I mean? And we would record when there was school, and then the last day of school in whenever June, that was the last day of recording, and then when school started up again, recording started.
Right.
That was his priority.
Gotcha.
of course, sure.
Yeah. And he had his priorities in place, but I think obviously he had to be shaken up.
Yeah. Do you recall anything of this McCartney Gabriel song called "Politics of Love"? Are you aware of any of that?
No, what they wrote together?
Yeah, they apparently wrote one song together, and
I can't imagine them working together.
Way too different.
Imagine it. I mean, I can't imagine.
No, Peter works at a snail's pace, and Paul is like, go, 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 go.
I can't imagine it.
Right.
I mean, couldn't,
Peter could take forever to.
Yeah, there's not a lot of information on there, so I was kind of hoping you might have a little snippet.
Well, is it out there somewhere?
No, never been released.
Probably never will be.
Yeah.
Paul's is like your consummate. I like to think of him as, the most famous, most recognizable working class musician songwriter. Like the guy, he'll do silly love songs, say, something else, Michael Jackson, this one, he's just a guy, like sit at the piano and he'll write a song. And, he came in one day, I won't tell you which, but he said, okay, this is the song we're going to do today. And he played it, and I said, come on, play the real song. Play the song. He said, no, this is the song. I said, come on, this can't be the song. Play the song. He said, Jerry, this is the song. This is the song we're going to work on. He said, every song I write isn't Long and Winding Road or Yesterday. He said, I write songs, and this one is a first draft. It's a first draft of this song. And he said, what I always do is if I start a song, I try to complete it, even if I know I'm going to change it. If there's a verse, a chorus, and a bridge, I try to get those 3 things before I get up and walk away, So that made sense. That was really encouraging to me. And I'll tell you one other funny thing. I was in the studio one day and I was playing the piano, and he comes in, he goes, what is that? What are you playing? I said, it's like one of my ideas. I've been working on it for 5 years. I'm playing something. He said, let me see what you're playing. Let me show me those chords. I show him the chords I'm playing. And he walks around and sits at the electric piano, and I'm at the regular piano. And he said, he starts playing, we're playing together, and then he says, this is what I would do, where I would go. And he plays his thing, and then I play my thing, and we go back and forth. And because I don't know how to play.
Okay.
When he plays his thing, I don't know what he's playing. And so we're playing back and forth, and he stands up and he goes, no charge.
No charge. Nice.
No charge. And I'm like, can you move away? Like over there? Yeah. A friend of mine is staying here, and
That's all right. Yeah.
He's that's Barry.
Hi, Barry.
This is just audio, right? It's not video.
No, it's video.
It's video.
It's video.
Oh, it's gonna be video. Okay, so
yeah, it's YouTube and audio.
There it is, Barry Milner.
Hey, Barry.
Buddy Barry's visiting.
Right. Of those tracks those 11 tracks that you work on, do any of them stand out to you as being as favorites that you liked performing on?
Read them down again.
Yeah, you got Move Over Busker, Good Time Coming, Feel the Sun.
Good time coming.
Yeah,
Good time coming.
Exactly.
We were out in front of we did the song, and then we recorded the intro outside. And I think that guy, Ed, that built the studio.
Yeah.
I think he's playing guitar, and
right.
everybody's singing together. It's supposed to be like a hootenanny or something.
Yeah.
And then it kicks into. I'm sorry, but I haven't listened to the record in a long time. I should have, to prepare, but and then it kicks into like a
Feel the Sun.
Awesome drum fill.
Right.
And then is it a reggae?
Kinda.
Kind of like a semi reggae thing.
That first part, the Good Time Coming, does kind of have a little bit of a reggae feel to it.
What about the verse?
Yeah, Good Time Coming. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Feel the Sun has a pretty good. Feel the sun. Wasn't that how's it go to? Right.
Feel the sun shining,
yeah, shine in. Yeah, shine in.
Feel the sun shine on you.
Yeah, and that's the.
There's 3 parts to the song.
Right.
The intro to the song, and then that outro thing.
Yeah, laughing at the good times coming. Good times coming in. Yeah.
Maybe what's the next song?
Right, and then you got It's Not True, which ended up being the B-side.
It's not true. It's not true.
Right. But that one was totally different because there you go. Yeah.
Well, he has that ability to write.
Right.
Verse melody, that's very hooky. Chorus hooky. Everything's a hook.
And then you got the first single, which was Press.
Press.
Yeah.
Right here, that's it, yes. Yeah. Don't want to tell you to press.
Great song.
Right.
Great song.
Then you got However Absurd, which kind of has this really, strange, piano type
it's
going.
A weird sort of
kind of like Beatlesque in a way. Yeah.
Exactly. Sort of Sgt. Pepper, really offbeat kind of.
Right. There was actually a lot of horn players on this album. Now, did the horns were they added while you were there, or were they added later? Do you recall?
Oh no, after me.
Okay, gotcha. Then you got Stranglehold, which you talked about, which was a single, which the video we'll get to a second. Footprints. Awesome. Yeah, Footprints, which you talked about.
Love that.
Yeah, Right Away, which is another B-side, which was one of my favorites. Then you got
Tough on a Tightrope. Not one of my favorites.
Okay. Tough on a Tightrope.
2 legs.
Tough on a Tightrope.
Well, there you go.
That's classic.
I like it.
Pretty Little Head, which was also a video as well, which you did the vibraphone on.
Yeah.
So
I never saw that video. Where is that video?
Oh, it's UK. It was a single in the UK.
No,
Uh,
it's
the,
on YouTube. Yeah, just go on YouTube
yeah,
and
it's
get
on
it.
YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's got a it's famous for the fact that it's got a small snippet of "She's Leaving Home" on it before the
Video
song.
proper
Yeah,
starts.
the
Yeah,
video proper.
and that song was remixed by a guy named Julian Mendelson,
Right,
who we spoke with a few episodes ago.
right. And
And
he
it was
actually mixed "Shock the Monkey."
he did.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he did a good job remixing some of these press to play tracks, which are I think the
Yeah,
remixes are better too.
they could be now more modern.
right. So
Have you spoken to Padgham?
not
Not
yet,
yet.
not yet, not yet. I have no contact information on him, so I would love to talk to him about it.
Oh, I'll see what I can do.
Oh,
I
thank you.
don't know if I have his in contact, but I seem to have a connection to, I think, a guy who manages him.
Okay.
But there's somebody on. Hang on. Somebody um, on Instagram or where that's like Hugh Padgham.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I
But
saw that.
funny, I don't know if it's not Hugh because I messaged him
Okay.
and I never heard back.
Gotcha.
And I
You
was-
never know with these accounts. It could be
Right.
it could be anybody.
There's
So
not
did-
a lot. He doesn't have a lot of followers.
So did Carlos Alomar come in while you were there as well, or was that after as well?
Nobody did. It was just
Wow.
Eric, Paul, me.
Wow,
And-
so really sparse group of guys. Not a full band, not like all the horn. It was just you guys, just a couple
No,
of
it
you
was just we laid down the ground, the foundation of.
for the album, really,
That
and then
album.
everybody else came in after you guys, right?
Yeah.
Right. Now, Paul's been re-releasing all the stuff in his archive collections. I don't know if you've been seeing any of these archive collections or not, but he's been having a lot of the performers that have played on them, adding their stories as well. So I would hopefully, if he releases a press to play archive series, you'll be a part of that, and tell your story.
I hope so, because
Yeah.
I have a story.
So what's about that? Talk about that video shoot then for Stranglehold.
The video shoot was interesting. I got a call from Phil Ramone.
Yep.
You know who he is?
Oh
Yep.
yeah, producer. Yep.
Yeah, big time. I guess he wanted to produce Paul.
Yes. Yeah.
But
He has.
they hired him to orchestrate this video shoot, which was interesting. And they couldn't tell us where we were going. They just said, we're going to pick you up at such and such a time, and we're going to go to the airport. You're going to fly, bring a passport, blah, blah, blah. But we can't tell you where we're going. But we went to Arizona, and I just know that I don't know whether he told it me early, before we negotiated a fee or after, but he did say that Paul said, get whoever you want, but you have to get Jerry and you have to get Lenny Pickett.
Oh, okay. Right.
Said, you can hire whoever you want, but you have to have Jerry and you have to get Lenny Pickett. So
Interesting. Cool.
I think it was because he knew me.
Right.
It was like 6 or 8 months. I don't know how much longer, but he knew me. He didn't want to be surrounded by a bunch of strangers.
Right. What was after you laid down these tracks, they're obviously different from the finished product. So, what was your thoughts on when you finally heard the finished product? Because, I had heard that it was going to come out in 85, but then it was put on hold or whatever. So more work was put on it. And then that obviously came out in 86. So, well over a year after you started working on it. So,
I don't know. At that time, I was so busy doing so many different things. Like, I didn't really keep track of what was going on. But I will say this. Sadly, when that record came out, it wasn't really McCartney was not thought of as like who he really is.
Right. No.
I think that partially there was a thing about how Lennon was the real creative force and McCartney was doing things like Silly Love Song or blah, 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 or maybe that was it, but he just wasn't, it wasn't in fashion. It was not fashionable to like Paul McCartney. I do remember that. That was
Okay.
the problem with the record.
Mm.
I love John Lennon and I love Paul McCartney, but I would choose to work with Paul McCartney. I mean, McCartney, he's more musical. You know what I mean? His range and what he does, and how he writes, and he's a songwriter.
Right.
I'll tell you something funny. I stumbled across a British from probably the 30s or 40s, a guy named George Formby.
Mm.
Yep.
Like a kooky guy. He used to writes a lot of songs about being a window cleaner. So when you would see in people's windows and everything that you would see, it was all like racy stuff, like who's having. So I came in with a George Formby record into the studio. I must have just bought it, an LP. I'm like,
Right.
and Paul, and Paul looks at me. He looks at the record. He goes, "What are you doing with that record?" I said, I love George Formby. He goes right to the piano and he starts singing, "Oh, I'm standing on the corner, but I'm in it. Still a pretty little lady walking by. Oh, me. Oh, my." And you can hear it was an influence on him. You can hear the influence.
That style of writing, sure.
He started rattled off a whole bunch of Formby songs, and that was a very funny thing, but that's the way he was. He was very, very musical, very into the historically, like he knew all of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, he could pick up anything and play
versatile.
it. That's what he could do.
Yeah.
Right.
So fast forward then to '89, you had the opportunity to work with Paul again, I would assume, on the Spike album Veronica, which was the hit single for Elvis Costello. Was that all of you guys in the studio at once? Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that was, when I've been working with Paul, I don't know if I already told you this, but I think he was talking about they kept trying to get him to write with Elvis.
Right.
His manager, they were trying. They thought Elvis makes sense. He's kind of got a little bit of a Lennon thing.
Lennon in him. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, but he said, it never really worked out. So it hadn't worked out at that point. Then cut ahead to Spike, and I'm working on that record with Elvis, and he's written a couple songs with Paul.
Yeah.
I worked with Paul on his record earlier, blah, blah, blah. What, I hope I don't get myself into trouble for telling the story. Right. I said, what happened? At that time, Paul said that you guys, you weren't writing, you didn't write any songs together. And Elvis said, "You know what, Jerry? I don't co-write with anybody." Back at the time, he said, "I just write my songs myself. I don't co-write." So I said, "Well," he said, my manager, there was a lot of talk about, let's try writing something here. So he said, "You know what? I took a couple of songs that I've had that I haven't really been able to finish."
Right.
And I figured, this is Elvis. He said, "I figured, what do I have to lose? I'll give him those songs." And so he sent him a couple songs that he had started, and he said to me, "You know what? Paul worked on them, and he sent me back what he did." He said, I didn't know what I was going to think, but he said, "I really liked it. I really."
Yeah, that was one of them was Veronica.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great record, that Elvis Costello record.
Mm-hmm.
Spike, sure.
Yeah, right.
Let him dangle.
And you're also on the other co-write too, Pads, Paws, and Claws.
Pads, Paws, and Claws. Yeah. Also a really good song. So anyway, that was fun. That was the extent of it. But he was very impressed with what Paul did. He had no expectations. He said, "I don't know. We'll just see. Maybe we'll see how he does." As opposed to getting into a room together and trying to write a song from scratch, I guess. But
well, that's what ended up happening, anyways.
I'm sure, because if that was successful,
Right.
It's a funny thing that. Now, I've seen a documentary about Elvis. No mention of Spike at all.
Really?
I saw a documentary. No mention of Spike. None.
That's
No
that's
mental,
odd.
which is weird.
Veronica was his
It was
biggest
the
hit.
last big hit he had.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess he doesn't give a shit about that. He doesn't care about the hit,
Right.
He made the money, but I don't know. There's a funny thing. I wonder. I just don't understand. There's got to be a story behind that. There's got to be a story behind that. Why he doesn't he's not that he doesn't talk about Spike.
Interesting.
Anyway, that's my impression.
Right.
Interesting.
Let's jump with what you're working on now or recently.
Wait a minute. Let's just stay. Let me see. How long we're going on? We're like where? We're an hour and a half, I think.
Well, hour and 17. Yeah. So I didn't know how much time you had. So
I've got a little more time, and if you don't mind,
yeah,
please.
Doing the video.
Yes.
Was I'm sorry, but we got to talk about the video.
Please,
go.
Absolutely.
We're
As much time as you have
in Arizona.
Right.
And there's a band. He said bass player Lenny Pickett. I don't even remember who the other guys were. I don't. So Bob Giraldi. Look him up. Bob Giraldi was the director.
Right.
He had become famous for doing like these Miller Lite commercials in the 80s or something. I don't know. Well, something. But he became like an overnight sensation. Well, I got to be careful just how much I say. But let me put it to this way. We're out in the middle of nowhere. They built this place to make it look like a club. I'm sure you've probably seen the video.
Oh, sure.
It's like we're playing in a bar. And we get up. We're on this stage. We start playing. Well, the very first thing. First of all, Phil Ramone has a recording truck outside. And he's set up for recording. Okay.
Right.
We play 5 minutes. This insane, crazy person who happens to turn out to be Bob Giraldi comes running up on the stage. He gets into Paul's face about like this, and he goes, "Can we swear on your podcast?"
Sure you can.
If I fucking hear one more fucking note, you play one more fucking note on that bass, and I'm going to tear it off you, and I'm going to break it over your head.
Wow.
Not kidding. Paul, he kind of like turns around. I'm behind the drums. I kind of walk out from the drums, and I walk up to him, and he's walking back towards me. Right. And I said to him, "You let him talk to you like that?"
That's the Italian coming out of you, right?
I'm a typical Italian. I'm like,
yeah, right.
And Giraldi, of course.
Right.
I said, "You let him talk to you like that?" And Paul goes, "Oh, Bob, he doesn't mean it. He's a little hyper. He gets a little carried away. But Paul was great. He didn't take it personally. Of course, he's Paul McCartney. He could have him removed bodily.
Yeah.
Yes, he could.
Right off the place and take him out into the desert.
Snap of his fingers, leave him out there too,
and drop him in it.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
it, and leave him there.
So we have Phil Ramone, who wants us to jam and record. Bob Giraldi, who is going to kill us if we play. No. And so a couple of things. One, I had a sombrero on, and there was like production assistants. They were taking Polaroids. They showed me a Polaroid of what I looked like, and I had the sombrero on, like it was like this, like on the back of my head. So I took some Scotch tape and I taped it on the front of the sombrero, and they were like, "Oh, you should take that off." I said, "No, I'm not taking it off." Well, eventually, Giraldi comes wandering around on stage, and he goes. Looks at me, goes, Who are you? What are you? You're the drummer? You're the drummer? You're the guy with the Polaroid? And this is what he's saying to me. You're nothing.
What was up this guy's ass?
You're fucking, what was up his nose. you're fucking nothing. You're a drummer. What the fuck? You're a fucking drummer. You're like nothing. You're a nobody. Like do you ever had anybody talk to you like that? I mean,
No.
I just started laughing. It was either laugh or deck the guy.
Right.
Well, that's it. What's
And
it?
so, like, it's just like, it was so absurd that I just started laughing. But who talks to anybody like that?
That's what I'm saying.
Now, lastly, there's like a trailer production office, and I'm in there for some reason, and there's Phil Ramone and Bob Giraldi. Phil Ramone has passed away, sadly.
Yes. Yep.
Giraldi, I don't know where he is, but they're like going at it. What a stupid thing! No, Phil Ramone is like he's produced Billy Joel.
Yep.
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody. Bob Giraldi, he whatever. He did some beer commercials. He directed, I think, Say. I think maybe.
I think he did. You're right.
He might have done that, and but then he made a movie and it completely flopped, and then he went off into obscurity.
And he did a music video that only McCartney fans know about.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Stranglehold, the one you're talking about.
Oh yes, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna say that most of the Giraldi people over the 5 days, I'm not sure that anybody slept. Any of them slept. I think we slept. And trust me, I have my own, but I'm a little more discreet and discerning, and I don't fly off the handle. I keep it under control. So, but what's interesting, and you guys might know this, there was a crew that was filming the making of the video.
Oh wow!
Do you you haven't?
I've seen that.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Where did you see it? I would love to see that.
I think it's on YouTube. I've seen it. You see the camera crews all setting up and stuff like that. I've seen it.
I mean, I'm talking to Linda, and she, when she saw me, it was like, oh Jerry, blah blah blah, and we're hanging out talking, and I'm saying to Linda, when are we going to do your record? When are we going to do your record? And she was so sweet.
Wow.
She was so sweet. She was like, really? You think? And she's like, I have this song. I think she was writing a song at the time.
Yeah.
You have this song I want to. I think we should, be good to record it. I think though, in the end, you might know better. I think they kept their roles where Paul was she obviously went on tour with him.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And was in videos, and not the video we did, but with Wings. Was she in Wings?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So she was a big part of that. And but at that point I think the kids were at a point where it was just, she's gotta just be a mother.
Right.
Were you ever asked to do anything else with Paul after that?
No, they were talking about, they were talking at the time, his manager, like, oh, we're going to do, we're not going to tour, but what we're going to do is we're going to do like 5 events in 5 cities, like London, New York, LA.
Right.
Maybe somewhere else, like, and do like a simulcast, of the music, not touring, because again, I think, James was 9,
right.
Stella was 12.
He was a couple of years away from embracing that full tour stuff again. He wasn't at that point yet.
For me, sadly, I would have.
Yeah, timing, that just was unfortunate.
When he put this band together, and I know I worked with I don't know if you've spoken to him yet, Rusty Anderson.
Oh, Anderson, yeah.
I've worked with Rusty, guitar player, LA guy.
Yep.
Abe Laboriel Jr. Been with him now for what, 25 years?
Yeah, 20 years.
20 years now.
Yeah. So, but by that time, I think, had Linda passed away?
Yeah.
I mean, wow, it's amazing. Has it been 20 years? But then he was really more ready to go out on the road. The kids were grown up.
Right.
You know, I did try when we were working at this on the record. I remember Mary was about 15 or 16 with a friend, and I remember talking to them, and then and Paul, we were like in the kitchen, and I'm like, oh, you know, Mary and your friend, like, well, why don't I grab a couple chairs and I'm going to set you up right by the drums.
Right.
And Paul was like, no, you are not going to do that. Paul was like, he was funny. He was joking, but he's like, yeah, no, that's not happening. They're not, and back then, I was a little more of an Italian
Right.
Adonis.
Gotcha. I love it.
You look back at photos of me. I mean, I've
Right.
just been scanning them. I'm looking at them thinking, holy shit, I was really good looking when I was in my 20s.
I remember the mustache that you had, the long one. I just thought was,
oh yeah,
it was amazing.
I can't grow that. I can't grow that. But I'm looking at these photos and my hair.
Right.
I was like, I'm better looking than John Travolta. I'm looking at him thinking, I'm as good looking as John Travolta, no question.
Right.
And I had that hair, that 70s, whatever. Anyway, that was fun. That was back at the studio. Now, those were mostly, that was the video experience.
Right.
After that, I don't know what happened. I don't know how much happened, or, I don't remember much contact after that.
Gotcha.
Sadly.
Right. So moving on then to things you've been, unless you got any other Paul stories, moving on to what you're doing now with the security project, and talk about how that started.
Yes, please. As this big prog head and from New Jersey would love to know.
Well, security project was the idea of a couple of other people, and I was not interested in doing it.
Oh.
No, I mean, that was like.
You did it already. You probably felt,
I did that. It was kind of like, almost like where you were married, not divorced in a bad way, but yeah, you're not going to get remarried. I don't know. But I'm glad I did it. But one of the guys that wanted it to happen, he talked to Trey Gunn, and he told Trey, he just basically worked us. He told Trey, talked to Trey about it. Trey said, well, if Jerry will do it, I'll do it. And he told me, well, Trey said he'll do it if you do it. And then I actually took it seriously. And then we put this band together. It was based on a guy named Josh Gleason, who had been in a band. He had a band called The Waiting Room, a Gabriel tribute band.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd seen him play, and he was really good. I mean, he put the monkey makeup on, So Josh, we put the band was sort of centered around Josh. Josh had wife, kids, young kids, a job, a very good job. I mean, he could only do maybe 10 gigs a year.
Oh, wow.
So that was not going to work,
Right.
So we went looking for another singer. We found a guy in Liverpool named Brian Cummins, who was a Gabriel fanatic and sounds just like Peter. And so we did that. Brian is a good friend of mine. He's a great guy, but I could see that this was not going to be a long-term thing. He was a bit volatile. And so then Trey and I both basically had the same thought, like, why don't we look for a girl singer, and get away from the tribute thing. So we had both worked with this woman, Happy Rhodes, and she came to a show of ours here in Woodstock, and she was blown away by it. And we asked her if she'd consider doing it, and she did. She decided she would do it.
Oh.
Now, she really doesn't want to do much in the way of touring.
No.
So it's really, I mean, the Trey and Michael Kotze, the guitar player, they're in Seattle.
But Tony's in this band, right?
No, Tony Levin?
Yeah, he was he?
Never.
He never was. Oh, okay.
No, he didn't want to do it.
Okay.
He's still playing with Peter. He didn't want to do it.
True. Although Peter doesn't play that often anymore.
No, not much at all.
No.
So, and then you're also, performing with your brother as well, with the Marotta brothers. I mean, how's that been?
Well, the security project is kind of in limbo.
Right.
We'll have to figure out. We
Right.
definitely need to find, if we're going to be serious about it, we have to find a singer that's going to
tour.
Yeah, that wants to tour more.
Yeah.
Ironically, we never really did that well. I mean, I don't know. We didn't get, it was hard booking gigs. We weren't getting tons of people coming out to shows. I mean, it was, as much as the music was incredible to play. And, but it was just, I don't know, there wasn't there was a much bigger Genesis, like musical box.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they played in Geneva, I think, and drew more people than Genesis.
Yeah, I believe it. They're incredible.
When Phil had quit and they tried to carry on with another singer,
right?
But they play huge, big shows.
They do.
We weren't doing. It was a grind.
Well, because you know what is there's that era of material you're covering with Gabriel, such a short amount of time, and to get that, that's a very fine area of music, and to get that for widespread appeal is probably challenging.
Well, we didn't want to play the hits.
Right, you didn't want to do You didn't want to do Steve.
Shock the Monkey.
Right.
We did do Shock the Monkey.
No, they could do that, but what he's saying, I think, is you didn't want to play stuff from So. You didn't want to play stuff from,
particularly So.
Right.
We didn't want to play In Your Eyes. We didn't want to play Sledgehammer. We didn't want to play Big Time.
Understood. Yeah.
But Brian Cummins, the guitar player, was the second lead singer. Not guitar players. Our second lead singer, who he played guitar, he did a solo version of Mercy Street that was absolutely devastating. It was the high point of the show. You get a standing ovation.
Yeah.
Just him. But when we play like Lay Your Hands on Me and stuff like that, it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the videos
of the Heat Family and the Fishing Net.
Right.
It's freaking.
No, it's music that's incredible, and it's not a lot of people appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Peter has to really not tour. And
well, I'm a chef, and I did a lot of concerts. So I did work the concert that he did with Sting a couple years ago.
Oh, awesome!
And, yeah, it was a really cool show. I mean, Peter, he still sounds pretty good. He still has a really good voice.
I'm sure that there's he's not going to lose that. I just don't think. This is what I have to say about Peter. I worked with Todd Rundgren and Peter Gabriel, and Todd Rundgren. If all he has is an iPhone, he's going to record a record on it.
Right.
He's going to write songs and record, even if it's just him playing My Unstoppable. The guy, you can't stop him. Peter is incredibly gifted, incredibly talented, but doing something that he's not driven every day to go out in the studio and write. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like I've seen it many times. We were supposed to record, or we were supposed to play or work, and somebody needed someone in his office needed a ride to London. Oh, I'll give you a ride to London. I'll take you to London. So okay, well, we're not working today. Maybe later if he gets back in time. and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think he's not driven driven to write and record, day after day. It's not something
Like a McCartney or a Rundgren, like you're saying. Yeah.
when he does put his mind to it,
Right.
it's amazing. I mean,
Yes.
it could take 6 years to
It
make
could.
it.
I mean, especially as time went on, you got those first 4 albums. They were like out, bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Then a little bit of gap until So. Then another 5 years until Up. Then like 10 years until Us. And so it's just he takes his time.
Well, I'll tell you one thing which is pertinent to this. We had this band. We were pretty set and we were doing our thing. So where was a timetable? We were going to do So. We're going to work on that record. Not
Yep.
So, but I was going to record with Peter for like 3 weeks or something. And then I was going to record with Paul. What is that, in April? What did you say?
Right. April. Yep.
So March, Peter, April, Paul. Well,
Right.
at the last minute, Peter changes his plans like he has done many times. And it was happening at the same time as Paul's record.
Mm.
And I didn't feel like I could just back out of the Paul record.
Oh, is that really how it? Okay, so
Yeah. So when I was working with Paul during the week, and then on the weekends I would drive to Bath,
Right.
and that's when I would do whatever I did with Peter.
Mm-hmm.
But that was what happened. I don't know if Peter, he wasn't the Peter Gabriel that he was after So came out.
right,
Like the biggest artist on the planet.
Yeah.
right.
But I don't know if he got miffed that I chose to work with a more famous, like I made a choice. I don't know. But
Well, one would have hoped that if given your work history with him, he would have been amenable to a schedule where you could work both out.
one would think that, wouldn't one?
Yeah,
I mean, like you did with Gabriel and Hall & Oates.
same kind of thing. You could have done Shane that that could have they're both super professional and famous. Okay, you want to work with me 1 week, work with Paul the next week, whatever. We'll make it work. And
What's funny about that record is, I told you my background, R&B, black, blah, blah, blah. So, when you listen to So, it's more, big time, Sledgehammer. They're like Motown songs.
right, they are.
And I remember Peter, he picked me up in London and we were driving out to Bath, and he said, "Look, I'm gonna get another drummer. I'm getting another drummer." And I had morphed my style brilliantly from Orleans
Mm-hmm.
and Motown to what we did with Peter.
Right.
I had done a tremendous, but my roots were in black R&B. So, honestly, that's bullshit. That was all bullshit. I think what happened, one of the things that happened, and I have to say this, I remember hearing Peter do an interview with an English guy, and he was talking about Security Record, and that he had been listening to shortwave radio from Africa and the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. This English interviewer, kind of snotty guy, was like, "Well, don't you feel doesn't you feel guilty that you're for like upper class white guys
Right.
exploiting the music?" And
I've heard you talk about that on another interview. Yeah.
when I heard that, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
things are changing. So it may not be coincidental that the next drummer was a black guy.
So you think maybe
That's-
these external political forces were behind his decision to make that decision, not a personal thing.
Look, I drove people crazy. I mean, there was a moment in the studio with Paul where I actually got in his face.
Mm.
I got in his face because I was walking out into the studio and I thought I heard him say something I didn't like. I got like right here. I was like, "What did you say? What did you say?" And I was like, "What did you say? What did you say?" And he was like, "Oh no, I didn't say nothing. I didn't say that." But I'm not exactly. I wasn't always the the diplomat that I am now, you know. And with Peter, I just was relentless with him. I mean, I drove him crazy. And, you know, I was a wild Italian. I was having the time of my life. Peter was married to his high school girlfriend and
Right.
kind of repressed Englishman, as it were, you know.
Right.
Never had a drink, never smoked a cigarette, never smoked a joint, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
literally, like totally. And I don't know. Anyway, I love Peter. He's great. I learned a lot from him. I'm sorry, but at the time, I was not particularly unhappy. Like, oh wow, what am I gonna? You know, I mean, I it was a relief in some ways, you know, but anyway, I miss the family thing with Larry and Larry, Peter, you know, Tony,
Right.
you know, that we had been.
I mean, this live record is tremendous. This is a tremendous live record. I mean,
that's a fun record. That was a fun record.
I mean, I Go Swimming. Your work on I Go Swimming is tremendous on that. It's just,
you know, we had a good run with Peter.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Is there anything else?
No, I mean, just if you want to just.
Sorry, you know, I can go. You know,
Yeah,
No.
No, I mean, I just didn't know about your time, but I mean, if you want to just talk about briefly what you're doing on your YouTube channel right now, you know, you're uploading a lot of videos lately.
I think it's Jerry Marotta Music. I would love it if people subscribe and go up there and look at what I'm doing. I have this band called Reelin' in the Years, which is the music of Steely Dan.
Right.
Sweet.
I mean,
you guys play Barrytown?
We don't play that yet.
Ah, okay.
Barrytown's right across the river.
That's why I asked you. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, no, we haven't hit. We don't play everything yet. You know, we haven't been able to play anything in the last 9 months.
Right.
No.
So we can't even rehearse. But you know, that's really fun. And like, unlike Gabriel, people flock to that. I mean, the Steely Dan fans, they don't care whether it's Steely Dan. They're just the music. We like pack places, pack them. And so I'm doing that. I have a thing called The Fragile Fate with Rupert Greenall from The Fix, the English band The Fix.
Fix, I remember Fix.
Keyboard player and Eric Taylor. It's like an ambient thing that you can find up. And I've just produced a band called OGD, which is sort of rockin' trio, semi-proggy rock thing. You can find that up there. But since we put the record, kind of put it out in the midst of the pandemic, it's like everything's on hold now.
Yeah.
Right. You put it out there and then that's nothing else you can do. Right.
Brand new band. They can't go out. I mean, they can't go out and promote the record. They can't go out and play. So, and then I'm just finishing up a record I'm very proud of with a singer who lives up here named Sarah Parada. And I've been working on this record for 3 years.
Wow.
And it's a phenomenal record. That's going to start to sort of dribble out now. And my brother and I coerced my brother into doing the Marotta Brothers. Really, my brother lives on Martha's Vineyard over the summer. Okay. And I go there and we hang out, and I'm like, what are you doing? This is one night a week. Why don't we just do something? Go out, put a band together. We'll go out and play. He didn't want to do it. I forced him into doing it. And
it sounds like he wasn't a big fan of playing live. He'd rather be a sessions man, right?
Well, yeah, he was doing a lot of sessions, and I'll tell you what really killed his motivation. Everybody Loves Raymond.
Okay.
He wrote the theme, and he scored that show.
Okay.
Do you have any idea how much money you make on a show, like the #1 show?
I'm sure, yeah.
Do you have any idea? He's got like 5 houses.
Wow.
He's not that, I mean, and hasn't been for a long time. I'm a drummer. I do a lot of, but I always play. I always drum. I'm drumming.
Sure.
He's like moved on from drumming, and
understood.
He's into scoring. He's got other shows he did. And,
right.
he's 72 years old. You know, I'm 64.
Right.
You know, he's good. The Martha's Vineyard thing was about it for him. You know, one night a week for a couple hours, but it's a lot of fun.
Right.
And we're on Facebook. Hopefully next summer we'll get to do it again.
Great.
Bill Murray is an honorary Marotta Brothers member.
Oh,
Nice.
He's got up, you know, he's on the vineyard a lot over the summer. He
Gotcha.
comes to our gigs. He'll pick up the tip jar. You want to see somebody get people to put money in a tip jar?
Right.
Watch Bill Murray walk around in a crowded room with a bucket with the word tips on it. And nobody says no to Bill.
I wouldn't imagine so.
No, it's crazy. It's so fun.
Wow.
And you know, I think it's like sometimes there'll be $300 or $400 bills, and I think Bill puts them in the tip jar. Bill throws them in the.
Yeah,
Bill,
I'm sure.
He's our biggest supporter.
Oh,
Nice.
We've got him to get up and sing with us and just generally have fun. You know?
Right. That's excellent.
Yeah. So,
Excellent.
and I continue to work on projects, production, scoring. I scored a TV show called Small Miracles that hasn't actually been sold yet.
Okay.
And I scored a movie called David Mayer, very interesting film. I don't know, it's kind of out there floating around. I like scoring, it's fun. I enjoy that. And I enjoy playing, I enjoy playing a bebop gig in a restaurant with a trio for $100 and dinner and drinks. And I play, you know, I just play. I feel like, you know, Paul kind of that mentality. I just want to, I'll play. I'm thinking about, is it a big gig? Is it famous? You know, blah, blah, blah.
You just like playing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do. It's part of it.
Excellent. That's excellent.
And, yeah, I mean, that's what, you know, I've got Dreamland Studios up in the Woodstock area, which is a residential recording studio. And we've had a lot of bands like the Pixies did their latest record there. Lake Street.
Well, I got a little list here of bands that have recorded there, and I mean, not necessarily during your time there, but I mean, it's got a long history of, you know, the B-52s, Joan Jett, the Breeders, Nick Cave, Joe Jackson, and the Misfits.
Awesome. Yeah, that was all. The studio opened in the mid 80s.
Right.
I took it over in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Oh,
and
sweet.
Joel, the guy who started the studios, he got fed up. You know, when Napster and digitizing and music crashed the music business, Joel, he got fed up with it. He just shut it down for like 7 years.
Wow.
This amazing place was just sitting there. So I talked him into letting me take it over, which he tried to discourage me from. He said, don't do it. Don't do it. You're my good friend, and I want to keep it that way. But it's been a long time now. I don't know. It's been 10, 12 years, maybe more. But it's been a lot of fun, and I get to do a lot of stuff there. And I have a studio in my house called Jersville that I do a lot of work here. You know, I work with the Indigo Girls, Sarah McLaughlin.
Yep.
I've done a lot of different people doing drums for people here. You know, I'm happy. I always wonder what would happen if things were different, and I just ended up being in Paul McCartney's band. You know, but I
still be torn with him now.
You know what? I got to spend some time with him.
Right.
Know him, got to play with him.
Yeah,
And,
you got to play with him and leave your legacy on a record that I think, as time has gone on, will get reevaluated and reappreciated, and you, my sir, will get a lot of credit, and deservedly so, for your work on that record.
I hope so. You know, like I said at the time, he was not fashionable at all. It was like, you know, it was a period of time where music was changing dramatically. It was just,
you gotta remember, Paul was like when he was in his 40s in the 80s, and he was considered old then.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, we have had a wonderful time, Jerry. We really appreciate you
Yeah,
taking
sure you
time
don't
out
want
of
to
your
go
schedule.
another hour or two?
I mean, I could. I mean, I have to go to the bathroom first.
No, I
But
know. I'm kidding. But it's been what, 2 hours?
yeah, just
Almost.
about. Yeah, almost.
Almost. No,
Yeah.
this has been a great chat though.
Yeah,
In the
thank you.
future, you want to double back? I'll think of all kinds. There's plenty of other stories,
Right.
Paul stories.
Oh,
The
then we are definitely going to book you again, my friend.
the stories I didn't want to tell the first time out.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Play that album again. See if it brings back any more memories.
I got to tell you one last thing.
Can I go to the bathroom? Can I just
Go to the bathroom.
hold that thought?
Go to the bathroom. I'm not going anywhere.
I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna do the same thing.
Go to the bathroom. I'm gonna get a drink. I'm gonna tell you one more funny story.
Yeah, please.
So we're Paul's studio is in Sussex. It's
Right.
It's up. It's windy. It's a country. You would never be able to find it. I mean, but one day we're hanging out and like a VW, like a minivan, like a Vanagon comes driving up. Of course, there's not 10, there's a little concern, like, who's coming up the driveway. So Paul has two guys, John and another guy. I don't know if you know their names.
John Hamill, and I forget the other guy's name.
They have two guys. That was his security system. So they go out and comes back. He goes, "They're these older German couple. They're camping or something. They're driving around and they're kind of lost. They're looking. They need directions." So Paul goes out. So you can imagine,
right?
That these people, they don't even know where they are. They're like,
right.
And they drove up a country lane and a drive that goes back and up. And, when you drive out, you'll never find it again. Mm-hmm. So Paul walks out and he like leans in the window. He's like, "Oh, hi. I hear you need directions. Where are you trying to get?" And of course, everybody knows who Paul McCartney is. I mean, his face, he's most recognizable at the time. And maybe still one of the most recognizable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was just so funny to see that he would do that. I thought it was great that he.
That's typical Paul, though. I'm not surprised.
He would go out there and he would do that just kind of for a laugh,
And he probably told them where they had to go too.
And those people are still telling that.
Tell that story, absolutely.
They're going to tell that story till they die. We were driving around this southern part of England, and we got lost, and we drove up somewhere. We didn't know where we were, and out comes Paul McCartney to give us directions how to get back to work. Anyway, that's it. That's
good stuff.
Well, thank you, Jerry.
You got it, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be in touch, and thank you so much for everything.
You got it. Thanks.
Take care.
See ya.
And that is Jerry Marotta. Oh my God, that was some amazing stories. I was not expecting so many great stories. It was just unreal.
He was awesome. Listen, we could have talked for another 2 hours. He was
right.
He had some great stories.
A lot of geek out material right there.
A lot of geek out material, and such a true professional. He played with McCartney. His work with Gabriel. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, really interesting to hear about how those paths crossed with him working with Gabriel, and then ultimately what led to working with McCartney, and just a talented guy and a treasure trove of information. And now, we were no sooner done with his interview, and I heard Still the One commercial on the TV for Applebee's. I swear to God. We hung up from him, and I heard Still the One. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
And I completely had forgotten that the Hall & Oates one. I completely forgot about that.
You Make My Dreams Come True?
Come true, yeah.
Yeah.
Completely forgot about that. But he's right. I mean, that was an Applebee's commercial as well. So.
And he's like, I don't get paid for that. Well, you have to write those to get paid.
Right. Yeah, talking about his brother too, who was also a legendary drummer.
Yeah.
Rick Marotta. I mean, so just great many stories. We really appreciate Jerry for coming on and talking about them. And hopefully, we can have him back on in the future. and see what else we can get out of him. I'm sure he's got.
He was more than willing to come back on
Yeah,
again. So
exactly.
maybe in the new year we will
Yeah.
do that and get, take him up on his offer to go check out the studio.
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely game for that road trip right there. That'll be a great time. Great time. So, Andy, anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Yeah, no, very interested to see what everybody thinks about this episode. It was one of the more ones I was excited for personally
Right.
because being such a big Gabriel fan and Genesis fan, I really was dying to hear about some of that work and
Right.
just thrilled to be able to, interview a guy that's played with Peter Gabriel. So just, let us know your feedback and keep those comments coming, good or bad. We enjoy them. So
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Please keep those comments coming. And those comments you can leave on our YouTube channel right here. If you're watching it right here, it's Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We really appreciate you taking the time to watch our shows. We love your comments, like Andy said. So please leave those comments. Email us at twolegspodcast@gmail.com. Check out our website, twolegspodcast.com. Right? Andy
Yep.
did some great work on that for us. So you can find all of our YouTube shows there on that website, and
our audio version.
yeah, and you'll see our Twitter feed right there as well. So you'll get all the latest news and all the latest Two Legs happenings on the website as well. So please check that out. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Two Legs Podcast. So please check us out there as well. What am I missing? We're everywhere.
You got
We're
everything.
everywhere.
Search Two Legs Podcast.
Yeah, we are now on Pandora, so you can check us out there. Pandora, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean. The list is endless, my friends. So please, just like Andy said, type in Two Legs, the number 2, followed by the word legs, and you will find us somewhere.
Somewhere out there, as the song goes.
Right. Right. And it's really cool seeing where you guys are listening from, whether it's, Turkey or India or, Italy, Poland, Sweden, Mexico, Brazil, Canada. We love all of you. We love the fact that you guys are listening to us. So please keep those comments coming. Everybody out there, take it easy. And as always, have a great day and a beautiful night.
Listening to Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast, hosted by Tom Hunyadi and Andy Nichols, with musical contributions by Dylan